Hello, and welcome to the meeting of the Rotary E-Club of District 7710 for Tuesday, April 7th, 2020. I'm Kathy Roadcup, E-Club of District 7710 President. Thank you for joining us. Valine Zeigler is joining us this evening to discuss Empowered Minds Academy. Rotarian Rhonda Pierce will be introducing Valine this evening. Rhonda?
Yes, good evening. Valine Zeigler is the head of the school and founder of the Middle School Guide. As a mother of three, Valine and her husband Eric have always been deeply concerned about the state of American education and specifically the future happiness and well-being of their children. They wanted their children to feel safe, supported, and be wholly seen. Before homeschooling, Valine was a language arts teacher within the Los Angeles Unified School District for 7 years. She served as a department chair, literacy coach, mentor teacher, and earned a national board certification, a voluntary and rigorous certification process for showcasing excellence in education. She enjoyed it all. She began homeschooling when her oldest daughter was born in 2002. Two more children, and 13 years later, other courageous families joined her. In response to the gentle nudging of a visionary friend, Empowered Minds Academy was founded fall of 2016. While homeschooling, actually around 2014, Valine began to follow Acton Academy, a learner-driven community out of Austin, Texas. Like Acton, in her household, there was an intentional focus on hand-on learning, unstructured play, and project-based work. In the mornings, she started her days off with self-paced and self-led reading, writing, and math challenges that were placed in bins and completed throughout the morning. The afternoons were play-based and project-based. Acton Academy and their learner-driven model, mission, and philosophy resonated with her powerfully. Like Acton, Valine too believed in equipping her children to master and manage themselves and their own learning. Valine is passionate about sharing the learner-driven model with us today, and as the founder of Acton Academy affiliate that centers Black learners and their families, she's even more excited. For her personally expressing this belief, she believes that by undiscovering, reclaiming, and reconnecting with her truth will be better understood who we are, and who we must be has been one of the most affirming and life-changing experiences. With that, I introduce you to Valine.
All right, Rhonda, thank you very much. I really did enjoy listening to all of you talk before my presentation, and I really appreciate this gift of time to spend with all of you. And 30 minutes is quite a gift. Thank you for it. And I really hope I do not bore all of you. I think I'm going to miss the energy that I saw at the start of your meeting. So if any of you want to unmute yourselves and give me a hurrah or just some sort of sound, I don't mind being interrupted. So I feel very welcome and thank you. So I'm very excited to talk to you about Empowered Minds Academy. This has been my passion since its founding, and I hope my energy carries over to all of you. I also hope that all of you, and I'm also talking to myself, that we're all taking care of ourselves mentally, spiritually, and physically during this time. I know personally, I think I've looked at too much news. I tend to follow news on the Guardian newspaper, and not newspaper, did I just say newspaper? I follow the Guardian online, and I tend to read about coronavirus updates daily. So I wish us all well there. I also think it's really cool that your Rotary Club, specifically District 7710, has been online for quite a while. So I did go onto YouTube to look at past meetings, and I saw them stretching back to 2015. So I think that is a big deal. And similarly, Empowered Minds Academy, we were already using an online platform and adaptive software. So as a result of technology being a tool in our space, we were able to continue the following Monday when stay-at-home orders were put in place. And because of what's happening now in the world, we're anticipating running Empowered Minds Academy virtually in the fall if necessary. So we're already looking at contingency plans for the fall in case there's a second wave.
That's
All right.
great.
So again, thank you for having me. Let's see. Oh, this is the slide you were supposed to see when I was saying thank you. So that is our logo, which was in fact designed by my oldest daughter, Valerie, and we've been using it for the past 4 years. So this is where my story starts. And I do apologize for being redundant. A lot of my introduction is also in my paper here. But my journey begins with motherhood. When my husband and I were still living in Inglewood, California. We've been living here in Durham, North Carolina, North Durham, right across from the Eno, for the past 17 years. So my oldest daughter there is now 17. She goes to middle college, high school at Durham Tech. My daughter in the middle there, Erica, she goes to Hillside New Tech. And my son, Eric, who popped into the screen, he goes to Empowered Minds Academy. So yeah, it was already mentioned that I was a language arts teacher. I did that for a number of years with the Los Angeles Unified School District. I enjoyed myself quite a bit doing that, played many roles there. But once I became pregnant, we decided to homeschool. That is something we knew we were going to do. And that's one reason why we moved to North Carolina. It was more economical. It was a better decision at the time. So after homeschooling for 13 years and homeschooling cooperatively with a couple of families, a friend did suggest, hey, go and start your own school. And I remember at the time feeling very intimidated by this idea, but it was always something that was in my heart to do. And so fall 2016, that's when Empowered Minds Academy was founded. The first 2 years, I really didn't tell many people about Empowered Minds Academy. So it was more of an incubation period. I was really experimenting, figuring things out. This was the first time that myself and my children left the house every day. That wasn't our habit. When you homeschool, there isn't really, well, when it was just me and my children, we really didn't have a tight schedule. So it was wonderful. The first 2 years, it was just me, along with 9 and then 10 other learners, 3 of them being my own children. So again, it was around 2014 that I learned about Acton Academy. When I studied their model and started following their blog and their website, everything resonated. A lot of the things that were practiced were very similar to what I was doing at home. So as Rhonda mentioned in the bio, in our household, hands-on learning, project-based learning, open-ended play was central to the practice. So what you don't see is our use of work boxes. They were basically plastic shoe boxes with different activities inside of them. And that was what my children did in the morning. And all of the shoe boxes were filled with age-appropriate, level-appropriate activities. And then after lunch, it was open-ended, make a mess of the house, play and experimentation. So similar to Acton Academy, I also believed in mastery, self-management, And this was the major reason why I wanted to join the network and be a part of this movement with other entrepreneurial families who are starting their own learner-driven communities in their homes. So as an Acton Academy affiliate, just like the many that are opening all over the country and the world, each one is independently owned and independently operated. So Empowered Minds Academy was founded in 2016, but we became affiliates in 2017. So the number has probably changed, but at the time of me making this slideshow, the figure was that 250 were slated to open, and they're getting applications all the time. So this is a screenshot of a map that I grabbed from Laura Standifer, one of the co-founders, or one of the co-founders, her website. But it basically shows that most of them are in the United States, but there are many locations opening up around the world. But Empowered Minds Academy is a bit different. As of now, and this is not a pride point by no means, but as of now, Empowered Minds Academy is the only one that that emphasizes Black culture or Black identity. So one thing that makes us unique is this statement that we believe that by uncovering, reclaiming, and reconnecting with our truth, we'll better understand who we are, who we were, and who we must be. So basically the idea of uplifting what makes us different, or just really looking at our history, whether it's the disparities or the triumphs, the successes or failures. The idea is to really look at that and prepare ourselves for a racialized world. You know, the idea that there may be some unique equipping that may need to occur with families who identify as African or African American. So we're still open to all families, especially since we are a nonprofit, but this is our target demographic. So how does this happen? So we have that statement on our website, but I just like to take a moment to explain how we do that. So here are a few things that we practice and also aspire to practice at Empowered Minds Academy. So interdependence and group connection. So this is a very sacred value of this model. Even virtually now, we circle every morning and connect when we have our group discussions. So being in community and building community is central to our practice. Also, what we have here are a few Adinkra symbols, and I chose 3 that are my favorite, and I hope I pronounced them correctly. But the first one you see is Vawo Hodi, and that one has to do with independence, or being an independent learner. So Acton Academy learner-driven communities are about independent learning. It's not a top-down model or a coercive model where there's an adult at the center and it's about earning a grade from that adult, but it is about your personal learning experience. The symbol in the middle is another one of my favorites. That is an image of 2 crocodiles sharing the same stomach. So the focus there is on interdependence. And that is something that we are constantly equipping Panthers to do, is rely on each other. You know, to what extent is their failure and their success rooted in one another? And the last one is, I believe, an image of a snake climbing a ladder I believe I have it facing the right direction, but that has to do with goal setting and aspiring to do your best. So this is something else we use to reach back by looking at those symbols, ancient practices that send these deep and profound messages. We also reach back by practicing the art of apprenticeship. In middle school, starting in middle school, our learners are challenged to find a real world apprenticeship and explore their passion and their interest. So that starts in middle school, and the vision is that by high school, our learners are away from EMA at least 3 times a year, perhaps even earning real income. So the idea is that, staying within the 4 walls is not the ideal learning experience, but getting out into the real world as soon as possible is one of the best ways to find your calling. All right, so if you noticed, I was calling Empowered Minds Academy a learner-driven community. So we don't really call ourselves a school, but the more appropriate term is learner-driven because, well, actually, I'm going to answer this question by giving you 4 more questions. So here are the questions. What makes EMA a learner-driven community? So there's 4 foundational questions that answer that question. We focus on who am I and where am I going? What tools and skills will I need? And which will I master? What are my gifts and talents? Oh, who will affirm me and hold me accountable? And how can I prove what I can do? These 4 questions drive our learner-driven model. So the first one, who am I and where am I going? 4 years ago, our learners chose the mascot, the panther. I believe this happened before the Black Panther movie came out. They also chose the school colors at the time. And the symbol on the panther's forehead represents wisdom and intelligence. I forget what the name of that adinkra is. We also focus on the hero's journey, we also say Shiro's journey at EMA. The idea that every struggle, triumph is a personal experience. And we love using the story of Sundiata because that story contains all of the elements of the hero's journey. The call to adventure, Sundiata has mentors and helpers along the way. And when he returns to avenge he triumphs over this great enemy. So he overcomes this struggle. So we reference the hero's journey throughout the year whenever a panther is dealing with a tough math skill or a challenging conflict with a fellow learner in their community. Next is, what skills do I need? Which skills will I master? A major part of our model is the use of adaptive software. So we use Khan Academy and Lexia, for example, 2 pieces of software that deliver core skills. Do I have a picture of this? And there's also lots of real reading, lots of real writing, and I'm going to say lots of, again, lots of hands-on projects. So while we do use technology, the majority of the time is spent building, creating, making, getting frustrated when that hobby battery doesn't work, and then the triumph of it finally lighting up. So you see pictures there of one of our learners holding a butterfly. I remember that being a struggle when they were observing them hatching, and they were wondering if they were going to survive and thrive. And you also see some DNA analysis. And during the global climate science strike, gosh, that was already last year, we did a climate science, climate activism quest. So a lot of our hands-on projects deal with real world concerns and real world opportunities. So every 5 to 6 weeks, we change up what the quest is, and to keep the energy high. Another question, who will affirm me and hold me accountable? So at Empowered Minds Academy, there are no classroom rules. So I already mentioned that it is not a top-down model. So as one of the guides at Empowered Minds Academy, it is not my role to discipline our learners or tell them what to do, but they are challenged to manage themselves and hold one another accountable. So on the left, you see the Panther Covenant for elementary school, and on the right is the covenant for middle school. So they actually craft these promises, and then they have a ratification ceremony in front of their parents and the community at the start of every year. So here's another example. In elementary school, they're using particular Adinkra symbols to celebrate when a fellow Panther is kind or practices leadership. So those are called character call-out slips. And that's what they're celebrating there. Okay. Oh, and how do I prove what I can do? So at Empowered Minds Academy, we use badges. Every learner has a badge plan, and they practice core skills, they read lots of books, they complete writing tasks independently, and provided that they show excellent work and mastery, they are able to earn a badge. And those badges translate into a traditional transcript. So if you are a learner at Empowered Minds Academy, everything that you're doing does translate into a letter grade. So that's an example of a transcript that we can make. And this is an example, of course, of a portfolio which better showcases a learner's accomplishments. So a portfolio with sample video, sample writing assignments, and things of that nature. This is something else that an Empowered Minds Academy high schooler should be able to leave with. At this time, we do not have an EMA high school, but this is an example of what is possible. All right. So how do we approach learning? So at Empowered Minds Academy, we categorize learning in 3 different ways: learning to know, learning to do, and learning to be. So you see an image here of a typical traditional model of the idea that a learner is empty, and the role of the central authority is to fill up their minds with information. So this is not what we practice at Empowered Minds Academy. Yeah, I did mention that, in fact, as guide, I am charged with asking Panthers hard questions that are Google proof. So the practice of crafting questions that don't have answers online is something I'm still working on. It takes a lot of work to craft really good questions. But ideally, these questions require critical thinking, ownership, and creativity. So having knowledge is important, but a lot of us are learning now that without creativity and imagination, lots of information really isn't valuable or important. So you cannot build a business just because you read lots of books about it. So I'm sure I'm talking to the choir here. Go to the next slide. So again, so learning to learn is a major practice and value at Empowerment Academy. You know, what is the best tool or strategy that works for me personally? We invite Panthers to ask themselves, what do I need to activate in order to solve this problem? So they have access to one another, to algorithms, world-class examples, tools and strategies that we are obligated to equip them with, templates, and different frameworks. And they're given access to these things, and we equip them with these tools, and they're challenged to choose what works best for them. So Panthers being able to choose and lead their own learning is the ultimate objective at Empowered Minds Academy. Learning to do is about failing and more failing and eventually succeeding. So say that again. Okay, so that's my son there. And they were challenged during the climate activism quest to make solar powered cars. All of them failed, but that wasn't the point. They did try really hard to get those to work. And I can imagine us integrating solar powered hands-on projects again next year. And on the right, you see plant science projects. So learning to do is all about getting something done and finishing it. So this is where knowledge is activated. How can I take what I know and build something? How can I manage my own process and collaborate with my fellow travelers along the way? So these are questions that they constantly grapple with during quest time. So we call it quest time. It's usually after lunch. That's when they are doing lots of hands-on collaborative activity. Right, learning to be, being in community with one another, building community is also a major practice. So we talk a lot about character, coaching one another, supporting one another, having each other's backs, and sometimes protecting one another, really looking out. So that brings us to learning to be, being kind, considerate, helpful, and even courageous enough to speak up and hold your fellow Panthers accountable. So yeah, so that's something that's very important to our model. Let's see. All right. All right, so why is all of this important? A lot of us, that's very open and broad, but there's just always so much talk in the education world about what is most important and what we need the most. And for some of us, there's always been a particular urgency about, what do our children need right now? And Empowered Minds Academy is, I guess in my mind, I'm tremendously biased. It's just one of those offerings to families who want an experience where learning and life is personal, that facing your own personal struggles is central to your life experience. I have this a lot of what if questions, but I don't know if I'll share them. I'm going on 26 minutes. I actually set a stopwatch over here because I am coming to an end. But I I do want to share this because it's something I'm really excited about. I can really say that for the past 2 years, I've been focused on finding a permanent and inviting location for Empowered Minds Academy. So for those, there was one person who said they live in downtown Durham, so maybe you've seen this location, but this will be our location in the fall. So just as of 2 weeks ago, I learned that the landlords will accept us as our tenants at this location in downtown Durham. It's right next to a public park and within walking distance from the library. I also want to offer that if any of you want a free book emailed to you, a free sanitized book mailed to you, all you have to do is visit our website, click on admissions, and submit your address after visiting the Courage to Grow free page. And I thank you so much. I think that is my conclusion. And I look forward to hearing all of you talk. This was very quiet.
Thank you so much, Valine. If everyone, wonderful presentation. If everyone would like to go ahead and unmute and start your audio and video, and please ask Valine any questions.
I just want to say that it was very empowering, very inspiring. So I really did enjoy your workshop.
Oh, thank you so much.
Valine, thank you so much for the presentation. It was very good. Very nice to see the work that you've done. I met your children and was always impressed with your older daughter, how brilliant she is. But I wanted to ask you to share with the group the difference between maybe what a lot of us may be more familiar with. It sounds similar, but if you know the differences between the oh my goodness, my mind just went blank. With the other teaching, it's called
Montessori.
Montessori. Thank you. Like, wow, how can I just? It just dropped out of my head. But that's the difference between the Montessori and where your learner-driven academy and all. Could you? Because that may be where more people are familiar with.
Yeah, I think.
Thanks, Lonnie.
If you were to go to our frequently asked questions page, there is a question that says, "Are you a Montessori school?" And the answer is no. However, our Panther Cub Studio, which serves learners ages 5 to 7, it is a Montessori inspired space. So if you were to walk into that space, you would see the bead chains, lots of natural wood, hands-on learning materials. But we are playing it safe and calling it Montessori inspired. So many of their badge plans and their challenges do, invite them to complete, sandpaper letters and just a lot of those Montessori things. It would be wonderful when we're ready to hire a Panther Cub guide to have a Montessori licensed guide. So that would be the ultimate dream. And Montessori guides are really, really tough to come by. But so yes, we cannot call ourselves a Montessori school. However, our practice is Montessori inspired. They get large chunks of time to work independently and to fill their space in with activities.
Thank you.
Yes, this is Gene Perry. How many kids do you have in the school now?
And
what developmental levels?
Yeah, we are definitely growing. So I want to focus on the positive. We are 10 families now. We have 2 new families joining us in the fall. Now that I'm not so distracted with finding a location to make sure that we're in a wonderful location in the fall, the the goal is to ramp up marketing again. You know, even though recruiting time is past, you know, typically from January to April, that's when schools are recruiting. But that's something I'm going to work on more. Our youngest is now 6, and our oldest is 13. So we have an elementary school studio and also a middle school studio right now.
Well, I just want to say I was really inspired by your school, the principals. The student-driven thing is pretty good. That's an ambitious route to take, but I think that's the one that really works. So yeah, my hat's off to you. That's a good idea.
Thank you so much.
Valine, bravo. Hats off to you for following your dream when it comes to doing what you do. I like the model. I mean, I like some of the things that allowing kids to grow independently with some guidance. But I got one question for you: is when kids transition from your middle school to high school, what kind of feedback have you been getting? Feedback on how prepared they are? What's the public schools receptiveness of taking your students once they've completed your training?
I should ask Erica to come in here. So yeah, we're so young at this time, and I think I should have said, Erica, someone's going to ask what it's like when, you know, an EMA Panther goes to high school. I don't really have a data set yet or a deep history, but mainly just confidence that they are more than equipped to lead themselves in a traditional space. My 2 daughters are my only historical reference. So like I said, Valerie is now at Middle College High School, and she's aspiring to go to medical school. And Erica is a high schooler at Hillside New Tech. So they are, you know, they're doing fine. I love it when they share their own testimony. But my husband and I were not worried. I think the biggest challenge is just the traditional model itself. It's just challenging when certain projects or assignments don't speak to the individual or the future or anything relevant. So that's the biggest struggle. Okay. And I had another thought, but it left me. But that's not a worry when it comes to this model. Okay.
Well, the internships are great too. Thank you very much for having those.
Thank you.
One of those traditional skill sets that we try to use in traditional, and I know a lot of private colleges are using internships as a great model too. So, bravo. I liked your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I really like this concept. You know, I felt like I never knew how to learn until I got thrown into college, and then you learn what ways fit you best, and you're starting kids a lot earlier, which I think has a lot of really good benefits.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I feel like the same thing happened to me in my early 40s. And now that I know that, I just embrace the fact that learning is a personal thing. And adults, if they play any role, should be just facilitators or guides in the process. You know, we all know that knowledge and information is best found in books or from mentors that you seek, you know, and yeah, thank you for that. And again, I'm excited to direct you to the website if you want to get a free book. As affiliates, they are very enthusiastic about saying, you know, offering this book to everyone. It gives you a great idea of the model. And in fact, some people will read the book and then want to start their own in their homes. So, so I just want to make sure I offered that again.
So I have another, I guess more of an observation. I teach kindergarten and first grade with kids with special needs at a charter school, yet a different variety of school. How are you working with the little ones? I mean, I love the idea of letting them learn how to sometimes fail, but persevere, I guess is the word that we would use. That idea, you know, it's away from the glitter and the glue and stuff. And I really like that idea. Can you expand on what the curriculum looks like for that age group?
For like ages 5 to 7?
Yeah.
Well, I guess that would be an imagine this, you know, picture. I mean, definitely at the start of the year for any space, you're equipping them and you know, it's a time to learn what the procedures are or where everything's located, how to treat things. But in a Panther Cub studio, it's freedom versus